Hello and welcome back, my friends. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a quick and easy low-cost setup so that you can start some seedlings and grow your own plant starts right at home, saving you a bunch of money and helping you to grow other unique varieties that you could otherwise never find at your local gardening nursery. So if that sounds good to you, then stay tuned because we're going to dive right into it. With spring right around the corner, now is a better time than ever to get the seeds of the plants that you want to grow in hand, whether that means ordering them online or buying them from a nursery. And then next, we want to get these seeds started early if we can and get a jump start on the season. Unless you live in a tropical, subtropical climate, you're going to have a window of opportunity to get your plants growing. For a lot of folks, if we try to direct seed some of these seeds in the garden, by the time the ground thaws out and it's warm outside, we don't have enough growing days left in the season to get that crop to fully mature. But even if you do live in a warmer climate with a longer growing season, there's still many benefits to getting your seeds started early. If nothing else, being able to grow a plant to maturity and start harvesting food for a longer period of time. And like I had mentioned at the start of this video, one of the main cases I like to make for starting seeds at home is the ability to grow rare and unique varieties that you can't find at your local nursery. Now I know for a lot of folks, growing indoors can be a bit intimidating. There's a lot that goes into it. You got to be able to dedicate an area of your home just for growing plants. There's also the cost of the initial startup or investment, which could get into the hundreds of dollars depending on how elaborate you get. And then there's the knowledge base you have to acquire so that you know what you're doing, such as how many hours a day do the lights need to be on? What type of lights do I need that will grow plants? Or how close should the lights be to the plants? Well, my goal with this video is to answer all those questions, give you the confidence you need to start moving forward with this, and share with you an example of a minimalist approach where you can utilize a very small area of your home at a very low cost to get growing today. Alright, so this setup is going to take place in the kitchen. A lot of times you may have some good sun already coming into the kitchen through a window. The more southern facing your window is, the better. And this growing system I'm about to share with you, although standalone it'll function, could benefit from having some natural light also coming into the space. So if you can situate it in a place where you can get some natural light as well, that's going to be all the more beneficial. Because what we're using here are these little LED grow light strips, and these are just like the light strips that people use to install lighting under their kitchen cabinets. As you can see, I recently installed under kitchen cabinet lighting. I find that it improves the ambiance of the space, and it's actually quite useful just brightening everything up while you're doing work in the kitchen. So I'm going to be installing these grow lights under the kitchen cabinet along with the lights that are already there, which will contribute to an even higher lumen value. But if you don't have pre-existing lighting, don't worry about it. You can still grow just using the featured grow lights in this setup. So these lights can install in about a minute. They come with an adhesive backing where you can just stick it under the counter in no time. But I'm going to do a more permanent install, even though it's more of a seasonal idea, just because you can't see the lights under the counter anyway. And they'll be ready whenever I need them. You can put them on a separate switch. And once installed, even if you're not growing seedlings, it would still be of benefit to some of the different houseplants you might be growing, as well as a lot of the fresh herbs that folks like to grow in their kitchen, such as mint, rosemary, thyme, lemon balm, tarragon, basil. These all grow with low light conditions as it is, so if you put them under a grow light like this, you're going to have even better results, healthier plants. And I was looking at different ways I might want to install these, and when doing so, I was utilizing this app which measures the lux value, which is pretty much the same thing as lumens, and I found that just installing these parallel to each other, a couple inches apart, was going to work the best. Now, as long as we're on the subject, when it comes to proper lighting for growing seedlings and plants, what you really need is a minimum of 2000 lumen or 2000 lux, and also 5000 Kelvin. So try to start at those baseline numbers and work your way up from there if you need to. But most lighting that you purchase will have those values specified on the packaging. In this case, with these grow lights, there wasn't much information accompanying it. And that's in part because they're a cheap, low-cost solution, but they actually seem very well made. And being that they're LED, I'm pretty confident that they're going to last quite some time. So I got that installed now. I will be running this cord through the bottom of the cabinet at a later time, but for the sake of this video and just keeping it on topic, we'll move forward. But if you wanted to do something like that and keep the cord out of your view, you just simply drill a hole at the bottom of your cabinet that will accompany the largest part of the cord and run an extension through your cabinetry to a point where there's a plug hidden in the cabinet, which is usually right above the microwave. Then you can have a clean, permanent setup that is out of sight, out of mind. But I'm sure there's some of you who just want this temporarily set up and then you can take it down later. So we'll just conveniently plug this in at the nearest outlet. And that's it. You're set up with the lighting. And I'll show you on this app the readings that I was getting. And with this app, I was able to determine that at about a 5-inch distance from these lights, we were over 2000 lux, which is perfect for growing plants. And as far as Kelvin value goes, this is just the color temperature. And there's something called a Kelvin color temperature scale. And it demonstrates how on the lower end of the spectrum, which is around 2700, you have what's considered warm lighting. It's a yellowish golden type of a glow. And on the higher end of the scale, about 6500 Kelvin, you have that cool blue looking light. And although the higher spectrum of 5000 to 6500 Kelvin is closer to natural daylight, it's not so nice for the inside of the home. Most people prefer more of a neutral in-between tone of about 3000, 3500 for their indoor lighting, as it's more warm and inviting and less irritating and stimulating. So as you can see, when we turn on the grow lights here, it's a very bluish color, so we know that we're at least above the 5000 mark on the Kelvin, probably closer to the 6500 mark. So it's that easy. The lights are installed. Now all we have to do is start some seeds. Now in all my years' experience starting seeds indoors, I found the most easiest cost-effective way to do it is by using these Jiffy pellets. You hydrate them in some water, they swell up, you throw the seed in, and you're growing. They come with a leak-proof plastic tray and a see-through dome cover. And this is great for keeping that humidity in there as the seedlings start to grow. And although I'm going to leave links to these products below for you to check it out, I'm going to recommend if you purchase one of these Jiffy greenhouses or the pellets, that you pick them up from one of the big box stores. That's by far the cheapest you'll find. Every year, the Walmart stores around this time have quite a bit of different gardening supply. And you can get these trays for around $8 and the refill pellets for just a few bucks. But get them while you can. They tend to run out pretty quick, and once they're gone, they don't get them back in stock. And they do make these setups in different sizes as well. So if you're going to be growing a larger plant or something that starts from a larger seed, then you might want to go with one of these type of setups. You can't get as many plants growing, but you can grow them for a longer period of time and have a more well-established plant before you transplant out to your garden. Now, as far as running this system goes, how long should you have the lights on each day? Well, these lights actually came with a built-in timer. They have a 2, a 4, and an 8-hour lighting cycle. And for most applications, if you're not getting a lot of external daylight coming in, that's not going to be adequate. What you really want to aim for when starting seedlings indoor is an 18/6 light cycle. So that's 18 hours on, 6 hours off. So you can do that manually by turning the lights on and off. But I'd suggest investing in some sort of an automatic timer, like a lamp timer. They're cheap, usually about $5, and you can just set this system up and forget it. And also keep your plants on a consistent cycle that's not going to fluctuate day to day if you were to do it manually. And it would be best to set the timer to come on in the morning with the sun. That way, when you get to the point of 6 hours of darkness, it's in alignment with the nighttime. Alright, so as far as the cost goes to run this system, these two lights combined, although the description says 20 watts, only put off 9.3 watts. So based on the average cost of electricity in the US here, which is around 12 cents per kilowatt hour, it would cost you a whole whopping 54 cents to run this system 16 hours a day for a full month. So although I'm not very happy about the fact that the seller of this product is representing it to be 20 watts, it doesn't really change anything since we've measured the lux value and we know the Kelvin value is going to be in line with what we need to grow plants, just based upon the color spectrum that we're observing coming from the lights. So not a deal breaker for me at all. For $16, I still find this to be a great value. But there's one last thing I'd highly recommend also including in this setup, and that's a heat mat. And you don't have to leave the heat mat on the whole time, although it's not going to hurt anything. But this is just going to add that extra bit of warmth that's going to help those seeds to sprout and get those plants off to a good start. I find these heating mats to provide a tremendous amount of value. And you can also buy a controller for these mats so you can dial it in, lower the temperature, or raise the temperature if you want. Not completely necessary, but another nice function to have if you're looking for something like that. And there you have it. This complete setup was under $40. You can buy new peat pellets and reuse the greenhouse, and you're off to the races. And we're talking about being able to start 72 plants here. That's 6 dozen plants. You can grow 12 of 6 different types of plants if you want. And look at the small amount of space we're occupying here. Just a small corner of the kitchen. Like I said, you can easily implement this type of a design on a bookshelf or get creative in some other way. You just want to make sure, however you do it, that you do have the lights overhead. They need to be shining down on the plants, not coming from just the sides or something like that. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the distance of the plants from the light does come into play here. If you do have your seedlings too far away from the light source, they tend to become leggy, meaning that they're reaching for the light so they become long and kind of gangly, and you don't want that. So you want to aim to have your seedlings about 4 inches from the light. So if you're putting this on a bookshelf or building a custom shelf, you can easily rig it so that you can adjust the lights up and down. Maybe you'd install these light strips on a piece of plywood, on a chain. But for this minimalist application, you're going to want to actually move the plants up to the light source. And you can do that using just about anything to prop up your seed tray. I found that my air fryer actually creates the perfect little distance to put my seed tray on top of. And I like to transfer the plants into individual little pots before I send them out to the garden later in the season. And my favorite homemade pots for accomplishing this are made out of plastic cups. I made a video covering that entire subject already, so if you're interested in checking that out, I will drop a link below this video in the description box. But once you get to that point of transferring these seedlings into a bigger pot, then just putting them right on the counter will be adequate. Now you're not going to be able to fit all 72 cups and plants on the counter under the lights, which makes the case for perhaps getting 2 sets of these lights and having a second one set up and ready to go. That way, when it does come time to transplant them into a larger pot, you've got a larger area to sprawl out for a little while, and you can get all the cups under the lights. Or try to time your setup so that when you are transplanting your little seedlings now out of the tray, you can go directly out into the garden. Just keep in mind when doing that you want to harden off the plants. You don't want to just stick them out in the elements and change their whole environment really quick. So you would do that by bringing the tray outdoors, take the lid off and let it get exposed to the elements for a few hours a day for about a week, bringing them back indoors for the rest of the time. Or if going from indoors to transplanting directly into the garden, you can put a little row cover on them, maybe a little greenhouse plastic dome, and help wean them in that way. Well guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. I sure hope you found it helpful or entertaining in some way. If so, we sure do appreciate it when you rate the video. And if you would, do us the big favor of shooting us a comment below. It really does help the channel to grow. And so with that, I want to wish y'all a great rest of your day. Until next time, this is Dan from plantabundance.com. Take care, I'll be talking to you again soon.